I'm going to show how I use Neovim as a window manager. Um, so this whole background is a running Neovim instance with some splits. I can add more splits. And then I can also do things like open a browser and it opens right in those splits. I can resize splits into all of that. It's two splits across. Close this one. Kind of meta plus space opens a list of the windows I have open. So that's kind of my Windows switcher for applications. Close this video, split, open it again. And I think that's the main functions. I also have, this is kind of a menu for files I call a lot. Mostly I'm in the terminal in Neovim. Sometimes I need to change volume. So I just have a shortcut there and close that. And I think that's the overall piece. So the stack for this is I'm on NixOS, and the window manager is Neovim, which is a great scrollable tiling window manager. But really, I'm mainly using it because it's very scriptable. So I have sort of this full screen terminal, happens to be ghosty, and then to bring these windows to make the browser on there work, it's a matter of making those windows floating windows, and behind the scenes they actually just all go are shoved in this workspace, and then when I call them, I can bring up a little of the Neovim code. It's doing some math to get the size of the terminal, which is not completely simple because maybe you can measure in characters but not necessarily font. So it's a little, some of those values are hard-coded to make it faster, but to resize the windows, you're mainly just running this function that looks at all the window sizes, and I create those files as part of a script in this Windows folder. So it's kind of this Windows as files that get the window ID that comes out of Neovim, and then a .app, and then the positioning is sort of done on Neovim events like buff enter or resize window or resize split. It just runs the whole layout on all of them, and it's fast enough to not really matter. I'll put a link to my Nix setup to do this. It's probably too custom to be anything other than a guide for other people to implement their own way. I think the main idea gets you a lot of it, and I'm partly documenting. I've used it definitely for 6 months. There's still a lot of paper cuts on various things, and I'm thinking about kind of resetting, rethinking things, but I wanted to have a document of how far it actually got. But I'll link to the current state of it if people want to take a look. And then I'll talk more about some of the pieces of it. And the thoughts behind it was really wanted to get something that felt calm when I sit down to do it. So when I open it up, it goes to this big note page that's very wiki, sort of Obsidian inspired, that I can do a to-do list. I can write whatever I want. And I have a top bar that works a lot like Waybar or something, but in this case is Lualign in Neovim, and just sort of doing that same thing of running scripts up there that it then displays as modules. So I have the top to-do item up there, and I also have a timer function, so I can put a timer, and the idea is like go down a list and do the timer, which I do sometimes. Some counters. So I really only have the one workspace. I thought I've used tileable window managers for a long time, and I want to create that feeling of calm, like sit down and sort of have one space I'm working in and be able to call up the pieces that I need to work in quickly in that space. So like in the past, I would have a tiling window manager where Spotify's on that workspace. But here, I can just pull it up here. And then, so when I'm closing, I have like two shortcuts to either really close the browser window or more often to close it, sort of minimize it. It's still running there. And that's also, a lot of this is bringing like window management sort of closer to how I use buffers in Neovim, where actually I don't have a tab bar or anything. I just fuzzy find what I need when I need it. And there's a few pieces like a shortcut to go back to the last thing that I make use of a lot if you're like toggling between two items. And so I have pieces of that in the window management as well. But yeah, it's supposed to be one window, and then these counters. So a piece of this is like even before I started adding the app windows in, is that I use Neovim as sort of a replacement for Tmux. It doesn't like keep stuff running when you close the terminal, which Tmux will do, but also like this terminal, which happens to be Ghosty, is just full screen all the time. I don't close this terminal. The terminal sort of is the computer, or like the base of the operating system. And so to do that, I have Neovim, and then I'm just opening the terminals within Neovim, doing some stuff to, so also like look at a project, mostly I'm doing dev on here. And I can bring those up real quick. Just open more splits. It's nice I can open different projects. And this was work to get figured out mostly in terms of how to handle the working directory. So now I'm in this SDF text other app, and I can use telescope fuzzy find to move around in there. And then if I go back to my other split that's in the barcode start project, the fuzzy find is scoped to that project. And that's a really nice way for me to think about things and be able to like reference an old project, copy and paste something from there. And then, I have a shortcut to just get a terminal, and the terminal opens in that same directory that the file is in. And then a piece of this too is I think a lot of this was inspired by oil.neovim, where you're navigating files just as a buffer, you hit return to get into the file or get into the folder, and minus to get up, go up. And just, kind of like retro, but also, I don't know that it really existed in this form. It feels retro, fast, navigation of files and going through those. And then a big piece to keep things simple was the NVR Neovim remote package, which just lets you do a thing so that I can do N, which is my shortened NVIN command in any terminal, and that'll rather than opening up like a nested thing, it'll just go to the oil view in that directory, and that's through NVR that it don't totally understand all the details, keeps it in that same Neovim session. And that's really nice. So before I started adding the app windows, a lot of this was just getting it so that Neovim could work as a replacement for Tmux. And I might end up back there, especially because I usually have a browser and Neovim open side by side. That got me most of the way here, and then the inspiration to add in the apps, the app windows, was just oh, it's annoying that I can do side by side, but I can't do a one corner app and have Neovim, especially maybe I want to watch terminal logs go by here. And I also could do that in a tiling window manager with two terminals open, which I also did for a while, but then you're not sharing across the context of those terminals. Just feels weird. This despite being patching a bunch of stuff together, feels like maybe the natural way to do it. What else do we want to do on the tour? NVR is a big piece of it. This is, and terminals. That's actually what I was going to talk about. Is there's this counter here. The 2 is the number of sort of running terminal processes I have. So I have a shortcut to show those. And in this case, it's OBS is running. Stuff sort of gets started from the command line, which is kind of fun. And MVPV that's doing this image is also running in the command line. But, these days, what'll often be running is instances of, for example, Cloud Code, and so it's nice I can go through it's the wrong shortcut, those and get back to sessions there. And also it works for just running dev servers. I can get back to those. That was a fairly recent addition. And feels pretty good to be able to navigate those running terminal instances. So there's a common, opening buffers files is fuzzy find in Telescope mostly. And then there's kind of a special view, a lot like oil, of the running terminal processes. And then, Yeah, usually I just am opening a browser, so I have a keyboard shortcut to open the browser, um, and I don't need like a launcher, but I also have a shortcut that is a little more like a launcher. It'll open up um, either the file browser or to do audio or stuff like that. Just going to fish out the toolbar. The 9 is a count of the active windows. So yeah, I only have the one window. I mean, secretly, how this works is that all the unactive windows just get pushed to another workspace, which I can go see, and sometimes I need to debug if there's like a pop-up window that didn't get handled exactly the way I wanted it to. Then I do that. But otherwise it's this, and it seemed kind of good to keep an eye on how many of those I have open, but usually it's not an issue. Focus mode is a little script that blocks like Twitter just through the Etsy localhost file and blocks some distracting stuff. This is the battery, -100, just means it's fully charged, date, time. And yeah, it's really directed towards having a pretty focused experience and works pretty well, although I still have hassles. Is there anything else cool to show? Just more splits. Can do a lot of splits. Yeah. So also love to hear what people do with it, or like if other people want to take a shot at the idea. Like I said, I think you can figure out how to measure your splits and just put a floating window over it. I'm sure there's pieces of it that I'm forgetting. I think like launching something was kind of weird because you can't actually necessarily keep track of what you launched to get that window ID. I think eventually I did. But yeah, overall, kind of an attempt to build a sort of magical, focused feeling terminal that also lets you do like everything you need to do in terms of graphical applications. Thanks for checking it out. Let me know what you think.